So because I forgot to mention this in the first part of the video, we're going to go back and run part of the simulation again because this part requires that we run it multiple times. So as I mentioned in the last video, we were going to create a keystroke listener that very obviously moved the planets in very different directions. But what I neglected to remember is that we figured out how to implement a key listener because we figured out that it was already implemented inside the std draw class, and after we figured that out, it was quite simple to control the direction that the space squirrel was moving in regards to the actual planets. So what happens is, you saw the first video of how the planets would behave without any control from us. But when we run the project again, as you see here, we're going to run Armageddon again. And you see, as we run this project, even if I'm pressing on the keys right now, and you cannot tell that it's moving very much. This is because the space squirrel has so little mass that you aren't really going to see much of a difference when it's in a normal circumstance. But pay attention to where the squirrel goes as the planets get spiraled into the spiky ring. So in the past, it would normally float towards the ring and get spun out of control and then eventually get wrapped up in the orbit of Jupiter. But right now, as you can see, it's not doing exactly what it would do normally. And when we do this, it does get indeed spiraled around Jupiter, but then it goes past it, and instead of orbiting the planet, it then shoots off towards the top, and this is because we are now controlling part of how the squirrel moves in that sense. So the way that we see the collisions happen in here is that the planets and the squirrel, they will overlap slightly, and then the collision is triggered, and that's because of how velocity is changed, because the equations, while they mimic inertia, you won't see the movement in the opposite direction right away, and then so that's why you might see a bit of a pause first before anything actually happens. And now, since all the planets have been spun off of the screen, we will terminate this. To see how this works in another circumstance, we will replace the text file with another one, and in this case, we'll replace it with the quadstars.txt file. So you can see it's slightly different, and these planets, they're bouncing off of each other even more, and you can see the squirrel, it's doing funny things, and normally it would get sucked into the planets on the other side, but we just made the squirrel fly off of the screen on the right side, which it normally wouldn't do, and that's because we're controlling the arrow keys. So we'll do that, run that again, and instead of moving it right, we'll try moving it, we'll leave it alone as a kind of control, and we'll see how the squirrel acts in that case. So you can see if we don't touch anything, the squirrel first spirals up and then it heads left because that's the general mass of where the planets are, and now it's heading down again, and it's being drawn towards the masses that are the yellow planets and ends up orbiting them instead. So that's the update on our keylogger function. Thank you.